Diontae Johnson was a bit of an enigma for the Steelers offense. He had 144 targets, and while he appeared to be a focal point, the Pittsburgh offense didn't do that much to scheme him open. He's a dynamic player with good route technique and some nice bursts. However, he was largely left to his own devices to open himself up. Diontae Johnson is good enough to route people up on the outside or at the slot where he got most of his targets. He uses good patience and suddenness out of his breaks underneath. One of his favorite releases is to give a foot fire to close distance on the defender and get onto their toes. That allows the defender less time to react to his eventual cut, and Johnson got himself open through that method all year. Especially on quick routes, he played with great timing and patience. It's easy to immediately get to your spot, but Diontae balances the timing of plays and rhythm throws while still getting his releases in. Against the Titans, Johnson uses a foot fire release on the corner walked up in man coverage. The Steelers are running a levels concept to the bottom of the screen and using Johnson on a dart route with a slot fade inside to clear the slot defender. Johnson knows he has to get to his spot quickly based on the look from the Titans defense with their linebackers walked up at the line of scrimmage waiting to blitz. He still wants to get his defender on their heels though. He slow plays with an extra jab step before pressing hard outside and getting the corner onto their heels. That's all it takes in man coverage when they're walked up like that, and Johnson easily wins inside after moving the defender with his feet off the snap. Whenever Johnson got that man coverage look, he'd use the foot fire to hold the defender and get them leaning back on their heels. It doesn't look like all that much, but it's incredibly effective and relies heavily on developing timing and rhythm with the quarterback. The foot fire and quick dart routes and slants help him use his change of direction underneath, but he was also more than capable of using that to create separation down the field as well. The Steelers just didn't really ask him to do that in 2020. The top of his routes are incredibly efficient and he has no wasted movements as he gets into and out of his cuts. With that change of direction, he's also great in space. Whether that's on more quick slants or through screens, it doesn't really matter. Just get him the ball and let him go to work. What didn't happen though is using Diontae Johnson consistently down the field and scheming him opportunities to get open with motion, play action, or any other mechanism. Since 2016, the Steelers are dead last in the NFL with play action usage at 12.1%. While the Steelers are a little bit of an anomaly over that span, the rest of the league is much more efficient passing with play action than without. The Steelers were also a middling pre-snap motion team, and pre-snap motion has historically had a strong correlation to on-field success and offensive yardage. That all should change with new offensive coordinator Matt Canada, and I think that will be huge for Diontae Johnson and his skill set. Matt Canada has bounced around a lot, so it's hard to get a feel for what his offense will eventually look like. He's had one-year stops at LSU, Maryland, Pitt, Wisconsin, and Northern Illinois, all as an offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach. During his stop, he's tailored his offenses to match personnel. He's emphasized zone read and spread, as well as a power football team and 22 personnel. One thing we do know is that the Steelers invested heavily in the run game by drafting Najee Harris, Pat Freiermuth, and two offensive linemen in Kendrick Green and Dan Moore. We also know that Canada loves to use pre-snap motion and play action. Diontae Johnson would be the perfect jet sweep and Z receiver for Canada's offense. He has the tools to operate with RPOs and quick hitters, the quickness to make moves in space, and the ability to break off big chunks and mismatches. If you scheme things open for him, on top of that, he's going to be a big problem. Big Ben isn't the most mobile, and running a true Shanahan or McVay outside zone and boot scheme may be tough, but I think it'd be a great fit for Johnson in combination with more pre-snap motion. These three plays are all from the first series of Pitt's game against Clemson when Matt Canada was there in 2016. You can see how drastically different things look compared to the 2020 iteration of the Steelers' offense. It starts with Pitt using 23 personnel with 2 backs and 3 tight ends in a run-heavy formation. Canada then shifts to an empty look with that same personnel. That's a pretty rare thing to see, tight ends and fullbacks and running backs split out in an empty formation at any level, really. Clemson matches that with their big bodies and guys that aren't used to being in coverage because of the run-heavy personnel they have in the game. The defense then gets lost in their responsibilities after the shifts, and they hit the fade down the sideline to one of those big-bodied tight ends. The amount of pre-snap movement and complexity is pretty impressive. Here, Canada's moving around linemen with a tackle eligible, switching guys around to mess up matchups, and then adding motions on top of it. That leaves Clemson completely lost on defense. The first shift gets a tight end into the left tackle spot and bumps the right tackle out to the slot receiver position. That alone starts the gears turning for Clemson's defense. Then, as soon as they're set, Pitt shifts again. Clemson is now overloaded to the right side of the formation and has nobody in either the A gap or B gap to the left side. Canada throws a jet sweep fake in there for good measure, and Pitt runs outside zone to the weak side to pick up a chunk gain. Lastly, he gives more shifts, more movement, another jet motion fake, and then uses power shovel to his tight end for a score. It's really beautiful, awesome stuff, and he's schemed guys into looks just by moving around and causing confusion on the defense. The Steelers have great weapons on offense, and it might take some time for them to get to this point of all this movement, but Canada is great at creating mismatches, blown coverages, and misalignments for the defense. For guys that can already get open and are dynamic in the open field like Diontae Johnson, this could be a huge boost for their production levels. With pre-snap motion to help movement around and plays that build off of and work with each other, Johnson could turn the same target share and catch rate into an even more productive season both in yardage and in touchdowns. If I was a Steelers fan, I'd be excited, because if the offensive line solidifies, Canada and Johnson could do some serious damage and remain atop the AFC North.